Hello, can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Can somebody respond? Okay, somebody put the thumbs up. Okay, cool. Yeah, so we'll wait for like a couple minutes and then we'll start the class. So yeah. All right, so I think we'll start now. Yeah, so hi guys, welcome back to class 4. And let's just jump right into it. So as usual, let's go over homework first. So let me share my screen. All right, can you guys see my screen? All right, cool. Okay, so all right, class 3 homework. All right, yeah, so what the homework was you had to create a time of the day identifier, I believe it was. So you were supposed to do it on a 24-hour scale. So essentially, and of course it used input as well. So basically the user had to input a number between 0 and 23. And based on that number, it outputs whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, or whether the number is not between 0 and 23. So on the 24-hour scale, as most of you should know, if the number is between 0 and 12, 0 inclusive and 12, it's morning. If it's between 12 inclusive and 17, it's afternoon. And if it's between 17 inclusive and 24, then it's evening. And of course, if you input like 26 or something higher, then it will print out, as you can see right here, your number isn't between 0 and 23. So if I run this, let me run it real quick. Run, okay. Let me move it to this side. All right, so over here it says enter in a time between 0 and 23, right? 0 being 12 a.m. and 23 being 11 p.m. So if I put in 0, which is 12 a.m., it should be morning. So when I press enter, it'll say it is morning. Now let's try it with a different number. Java class 3 homework. Okay, yeah. So if I let's put in 16 now. So if I convert 16 to the 12-hour scale, it's 4 p.m. and 4 p.m. is afternoon. So when I press enter, it will print out the afternoon. And if I input like 28, which again is not within the range, it will print out 28 is not what. Oh, whoops! I didn't even run it. Whoops. Now I do 28. There, your number isn't between 0 and 23. Yeah, and of course, as you might have noticed, this is using scanner, and we haven't learned scanner yet. We're actually going to learn it in today's lesson. So yeah, but I gave you guys the code for scanner on the homework. So yeah, it shouldn't have been that difficult. But yeah, hopefully you guys understand it more today when I explain it. All right, so that's homework. And of course, guys, remember it's on GitHub. The GitHub link, let me show it to you again. I go here and oops, right there. So this GitHub right here, it has both the homeworks and also the class content. So if I go to like class 2, then it will have the homework and the class2.java or class 3, whatever. That will be the actual like content that we learned that I show you guys on screen. So yeah, let's get back over here. Let me close this real quick. All right, so let's move on to class 4. All right, so let me create a class. Oops, caps lock. Public class 4. And then the main method public static main string. Wait, is there a chat function? I remember last time there was no chat. Yeah, it looks like there's no chat again. So if you guys have a question, then you can unmute yourself and then ask your question. Yeah. Okay. So created the main method, and as normal, I want to. Oh, what? Oops. So as usual, I want to go over what we learned in last class. So let me see, what's the first thing we learned? Yeah, so it was like the math class, right? So math.max, math.min, math.square root, math.absolute value, math.power, and math.random. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this because it's pretty straightforward. So I'm just going to go to this file, class3.java, which is on the GitHub that I showed you guys last class. And I'm just going to use this as a reference, I guess, because, it's pretty straightforward. So let's start off with math.max. So right here, oops. So if I uncomment that, int max is equal to math.max of 238 and 10. So again, it's pretty straightforward. It just finds the number that's bigger. So in this case, it will print out, it will output 238. And then same thing for min, except it's finding the minimum value. And then, yeah, it's pretty straight. So that's math.max, math.min. I'm not going to go more into detail about that. And math.square root, which is right here, it finds the square root of a number. So if I do math.square root of, and if I replace this num with 9, then it will print out 3.0. And yeah, it just finds the square root pretty easy. And math.pow is the next one. Math.power, it finds the power. So if I replace num over here with 3, basically what this equals to is 3 to the power of 2. Because there's a number right here and the power will be on the right side. So I can change this to, I don't know, I can change it to 3. Now it will be 3 to the power of 3, or 3 cubed, which is 27. And if I change it back, 3 squared, which is 9. So that's math.pow. And then there's math.absolute value, which finds the absolute value of a number. So if I do math.absolute value of -28, then it will print out 28. And remember, absolute value just finds the distance from the number. Like it takes a number and basically finds the number of numbers between that number and 0. So so for like -28, there's 28 numbers between those two. And same thing, if I do math.absolute value of 30, it will print out 30. Straightforward. And math.random. So yeah, math.random. Of course, it just finds the like a random number. So if I do, where is it? Right here. Yeah, int random right here. Int random is equal to int math.random times 6 plus 1. So let me tell you what this does. Let me reiterate. So this again is called casting. So again, casting is like if you want to change a variable from one data type to another. So originally random would be a double, right? That's just how it is. But in this case, I want to make it an int. So I cast it to an int, which is exactly what I did here. And then I do math.random multiplied by 6. So basically what that does is that it finds, it just outputs a number between 0 and 6 inclusive, like any number. So it could be 4, it could be 5, it could be 2, it could be 0. And the reason I have a +1 here is because I was trying to make a dice simulator. And of course, in a dice simulator, there's no 0 on a dice, right? So if I put +1 like that, then it will never be equal to 0. So it will be from 1 to 6 inclusive. So that's math.random. And then the random class. So I'm actually going to go to this one and explain it right here, since this one is a little bit more tricky. So again, for the random class, you have to import. So I do import java.util.random. So what this does again is that it kind of extracts the random class from Java and it imports it. And now I can create a random object. So if I do random rand is equal to new random. So over here, I created a new object called rand, and it's from the random class. And then remember, there's two functions in random. So there's dot next int and dot next double. So if I do int int random num is equal to rand dot next int, then I put 6. Basically, what it will just print out a random number between 0 and 6, an integer value because it's next int. So if I print this out, system.out.println random num, then it will print out a random number. So if I do that, there, so print it out 0. If I run it again, Java, what is it called? Class 4. Yeah, 0, 4, 0, 1, 5. So just random numbers. Yeah, and then of course there's also next double. I'm not gonna go that much into it. It's like the same thing except it's for the double. And one thing to keep in mind though is that there's like no parameter for it, so you can't put like a number to specify like a limit. There are already default limits for it, which is between 0 and 1. So if I do, actually let me just show it to you. So if I do random num 2 dot next double, then as I said, there's nothing, no parameters. And so if I print that out, num2, it will just print out a random double between 0 and 1. So if I run that, compile it, Java. Oh yeah, and I have to change this double. That, and let's do that again. There we go. Then run. See, it prints out a really long double between 0 and 1. If I run it again, 0.32, 0.36, and so on and so forth. So that's random. That's a random class. And now let's go over the and or operators, specifically with Boolean variables, so true and false. So as you may remember, we went over the truth table last time. So let me go back and show you what I mean. Right here. So this might have been a little bit confusing to you guys. So here's the truth table for both and or. And of course is 2 and percents, and then or is just parallel lines. So let me kind of reiterate the truth table. So for and or operators, true and true is true, true and false is false, false and true is false, and false and false is false. So the way I like to think about this is that I look for patterns, right? So for and, as you may notice, if there's a false in the statement on either side of the and symbol, then it will be false overall. So if you look here, true and false is false, false and true is false, false and false is false, but true and true is not false, it's true. So if there's any false in the statement, then it will be false. And true, of course, is, I mean, not true. And or is the opposite. So if there's a true, then it will be true. And if both of them are false, then it will be false. So if you see over here, true or true is true. True or false is true, and false or true is true, and false or false is false. So that's how I like to think about it. So kind of just look for patterns, you know, that's like the best way to remember things. So if let me just use one example right here. So if I just create a new boolean val is equal to, actually no, I'm not going to create a variable. I'm just going to go straight with the print statement. System dot out dot print ln true and false. So according to my to the true table and like the patterns, this should print out false. Because remember, if there's a false in an AND statement, it will be false. So if I do that, then run it, it will print out false right there. And yeah, and then if I make it true, I'm not true, or, then it will print out true, because if there's a true in an or statement, then it will always be true. Oh, whoops, I didn't compile it. So if I compile it, then run, there, true. So yeah, that's the AND and OR operators. And what else did we go over? We went over relational operators. Again, I'm not going to go that much into it because it's pretty straightforward. So here are the relational operators. This is from last class, again, the last class file. There is the greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, which is two equal signs. Don't forget that. And then there's a not equal to, which is an exclamation mark and an equal sign. So that's not equal. And yeah, we can basically just use these to print out a Boolean value. So if I do like, so over here, in this case, I created two variables. There's num, which is 300, and then there's num2, which is 500. And then if I print out num is greater than num2, then it will be false, right? Because num is 300, num2 is 500, and 300 is not greater than 500. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward. You know, which is greater than or equal to, it's pretty straightforward. So yeah, those are relational operators that we went over last class. Then we went over if statements. So if statements is one thing I want to go over actually in this document. So again, here's the formatting. So if, and then the parentheses, and then in here goes the condition, any condition using relational operators, of course. And then there will be the curly braces, and it'll be whatever. So it's like kind of like if something, then do something. It's like simple English. So let's use an example. If 300 is greater than or equal, or is greater than 200, then system.out.println true. Then also we went over else, right? So else is kind of like if something is true, then do that. But if it's not true, then do something else. So that's what the else is. So else system.out.println false. So in this case, 300 is greater than 200, right? So it will print out. So this if statement will be true, and it will print out true. And keep in mind, if the first statement is true, then it's not going to go into the else. The else only gets executed if the if statement is false. So for example, if I made this 100, then it will print out false because 100 is not greater than 200, so it doesn't print out true. So then it goes to the else statement and then prints out false. So if I run this, pilot, and then run, it'll print out false because 100 is not greater than 200. And yeah, so that's like if statements. What else did we go over? We went over, oh yeah, and then else if. I'm I'm not gonna go too much into it. It's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, it's if something, and then it's kind of like an additional if statement type thing. So if I want to say, if, let's make it else if 100 is, oops, 200 is greater than, actually, let's just make variables. Hold on. So if I quickly create two variables, so int num is equal to 100, int num2 is equal to 200, num, then num2, else if num2 is greater than num, then print out false, and then else system.out.println, they are equal, it's equal. So if I run this, so if we walk through it, so num is 100, num2 is 200, right? So it checks if num is greater than num2. So is it 100 greater than 200? It's not. So it doesn't go through this if statement, and it looks at this one. Else if num2 is greater than num1, which is true because 200 is greater than 100, then it'll print out false. And keep in mind, again, it's not going to go through the else statement because the else if was true. So there's no need to go to the else. If these two variables were equal, it would have reached all the way to the else, and then it would have printed out equal. So yeah. And then of course we also went over even and odd. So the way to determine whether a number is even or odd is you do mod 2, and if mod 2 is equal, if the number mod 2 is equal to 0, then it's even, else it's an odd number. And of course mod is finding the remainder. So that's just a property of an even number. If a number mod 2 is 0, then it's even. So yeah, that's what we learned. That I was planning on maybe taking 10 minutes, but we went a little bit over time. But that's fine. So let's start with today's lesson. All right, so the first thing that I want to go over is scanner, as I mentioned. So let me just get rid of this. Oh, oops. Oh, it's not what I meant to do. Just there you go. Okay. All right, so scanner. So thing about scanner, as you may have noticed in the homework, again, it's very similar to the random class. You need to import it from Java. So over here, the statement is import java.util.scanner. And using this, I can create a scanner object and then make input work. And so it's taking the scanner class it's extracting the scanner class from Java. And again, it also has a few functions similar to random. So the functions it has is next int or next. So those are the two we're going to be talking about, or next double as well. So let me show you. So let's create a scanner object. Scanner scan is equal to new scanner. Then after this, what you want to do, oh wait, and then in here you do system.in. Yeah, so that's like proper formatting. And now what you do is put the print statement. So anything you want. So system.out.println. Let's just make it what is your name? What is your Then what I want to do is I want to store it into a variable. So what I do is system.out.println, or not system. So string name is equal to in dot next, and that's it. So what this does is that it actually takes whatever the input is. So for example, it will ask me what's my name, right? And then if I input Sandrup, which is my name, then it will store my name into this variable called name. So that's what this in.next is. And .next is specifically for a string. For an integer, So if I change it to like, how old are you? Then I would do int age is equal to in.next int. And it will do the same thing except it's for an integer. And so if I want to print out system.out.println, you are age. So what this will do is that it will basically just take your input and say you are, like if I input like 12, then it will say you are 12 years old or something like that. So if I run this, compile in, oh yeah, it's not in, my bad, it's scan. So the reason it's scan is because that's the name of my object, it's scan. So I normally make it in, so I kind of got confused. So if I run this again, compile it, then right here, then it'll ask me how old are you? So I'm 17, so I enter 17, and then it will say you are 17 years old. So yeah, that's scanner. And yeah, so let me create a comment at the top. So there is dot next int, which is for integers, and there's dot next, which is for strings. So if I change this back to what is your name, then I'll make this dot next, which is for a string. Then I'll change this to string, and then I'll make this name. Then I'll make this, I'll change this, hello. So if I run that, then it should ask for my name, and then I'll input it, and then it will say hello, my name. So if I run it, so my name is Centric, right? Then it will say hello, Centric. But I could have made it any other name. I could have made it, I don't know, Sam. Hello, Sam. So yeah, you get the point. Right. So that's scanner, and there are a few more methods that are not methods. Yeah, methods, functions that I want to go over. So there are two more. So there is has next int. So that's one I want to go over right now. So this is basically for ensuring whether the input is a specific type that you want. So let's go back to the old example of asking what's your age. So let me just copy this. Scanner, scan, oh, not this. Actually, let's just get rid of this. Yeah, so now I'll make this, how old are you? Then age is equal to scan.next int. And we're gonna move this down actually. So what we're gonna do is that we're actually gonna use the has next int. So this is gonna be used in an if statement. So essentially what it does is that it checks. So in my case, I'm asking how old are you, right? So I want them to input a number because your age is a number. And I want basically what I wanted to do is that I want it to check whether the input is a number. If it is, then it will print out hello, or and you are this age. And if it's not an integer, then it will print out please type in a number. So to do this, I'll have to use an if statement, right? So if I do if scan dot has next int, then I move this in here. In age. So if it is an integer, then I'll initialize that to age, the age variable. And then I'll print out the statement. Let me just copy paste this. Oops. And I'll print out you are Then we'll add an else statement, else system.out.println, please type in a number. Yeah. So what this does, let me get rid of some space. Yeah. So what this does is that, again, it checks if it's an integer. If it's an integer, then it will initialize the input to age, and then it will print out age. Otherwise, if I type in like hello when it's asking for my age, then it will say please type in a number. So if I run this, oops, I run that. Right here, so it's asking how old am I? So if I type in 17, then it will say you're 17. So if I run it again and say food, then it will say please type in a number because it's not a number. So that's what has next thing is for. Basically, to check whether the scanner input is a number. And yeah, and then has next. There's another one called has next. I'm not gonna go into it because it's pretty much the same thing, except it's for a string. So if it's not a string, then it will print out. Then you can print out whatever. So like in my case, if I make this if scan dot has next, then same thing. I'll initialize the variable and then print out whatever I want to print out. And if it's not a string, then I'll print out something else. So it's the same thing essentially. So yeah, so that's the scanner. And yeah, so I want to kind of do like a little mini project type thing right now. So using the scanner, so if I create another scanner object, scanner scan2 is equal to, actually, yeah, I'll just comment these out. So what I want to do is I want to create a scanner thing, a scanner object, and then it'll ask me for a number, and then using that, it will basically just output whether the number is even or odd. So let me quickly do this scan, equal to new scan, new scanner, system.out.println type in a number, and we'll make this print actually, just to save some space. And int num is equal to scan.next int, since it's an integer. And then over here, using if statements, same thing as last time. It's basically just this. So let me just copy paste it for some time, save time. So if, and in this case it's num, then I'll just make it even. I'll make this odd. So if num mod 2, which is a property of even numbers, so if num mod 2 is 0, then it's even, else it's odd. So if I run that over here, run it, then it'll ask me to type in a number. So if I type in 16, then it will output even because 16 is even. And if I do 11 this time, odd. So that's how you use scanner and use scanner to determine whether a number is even or odd. So yeah. Now I want to move on to the next topic, which is for loops. So today we're going to be talking about loops, so both for loops and while loops. So let's start off with for loops since it's a little bit harder than while loops. So let me show you the proper formatting. So it's for parentheses, then in here will be statement 1, statement 2, statement 3, then curly braces. Oh, let me comment them. Yeah, so statement 1, so typically what happens in statement 1 is that it will be a variable that you initialize and declare. So I could initialize anything. So like just like over here, I initialized a variable called num. So the same thing will be done in statement 1, where this statement 1 slot is. And in statement 2, it's typically a condition. So yeah, I'll show you an example. It's a little bit easier to explain using an example. But just remember that statement 1 is declaring and initializing a variable. Statement 2 is a condition, and statement 3 is incrementation / decrementation. So either increasing it like a number by 1, or increasing it by any number, or decreasing it by any number. So let me show you an example. So let's create a loop that prints out the numbers 1 to 10. So then I'll create a new variable called int I is equal to 0. I is less than or equal to 10. I plus plus, or I plus equals to 1. And then system dot out dot println actually print I plus space. So what this will do is that it will print out numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10. So we'll basically output this. So it starts off, it creates a new variable called I, and it's set to 0. And then basically what it does is that okay, so let me show you like the way it actually like moves. So it starts off here at statement 1, I is equal to 0. And it checks, is I, so this is what, less than or equal to. So is I less than or equal to 10? Yes, because 0 is less than or equal to 10. So then it actually doesn't go to statement 3. It goes inside the for statement, the for loop. So then what it does is that it prints out I. So it'll print out 0 plus a space. This is a first space, by the way. And then after that, it will go to the third statement, and then it will increment it by 1. So right now it's 0. So if I increment 0 by 1, it'll become 1. And then it'll be like the same thing. That's why it's called a loop. It'll keep on doing it until the condition becomes false. So 1. So now I is equal to 1, right? So now again, same thing. Goes to statement 2. Is I less than or equal to 10? Is 1 less than or equal to 10? Yes. Then it goes inside, prints out I, which is 1. So it'll print out 1 now. And then it'll increment it, and then it'll become 2, and same thing until it becomes 10. Then when it becomes 10, it'll pass through because 10 is less than or equal to 10. Then it'll print out 10. But then it'll increment it again, and it'll become 11. And this is where the for loop stops, right? Because it checks, is 11 less than or equal to 10? It's not, right? So then it will not go in the for loop, and then it will just end the for loop right there. So let me run this. Java C. Oh, let me comment this out. Just rerun that. Okay, right here. There. See, it prints out 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way to 10. And I could make any number. I could make, if I change this to 100, same thing. It will print out from 0 to 100. So if I compile and run, there you go. From 0, 1, 2, 3 all the way to 100. So yeah, that's for loops to print out numbers. And so let's use a similar example using scanner as we learned today. So let me comment this out. So another mini type project thing. So what I want to do is that I want to ask the user for a number, for a minimum number and a maximum number. And so using those two numbers, I want to print the number of numbers between, like print all the numbers between those two numbers. So between the min and max. So for example, if the user sets the minimum value to 12 and the maximum to 16, then using a for loop, I'll print out 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, all the numbers between 12 and 16 inclusive. So let me do that real quick. So again, create a scanner object. So scanner scan is equal to new scanner system.in system.out.println, enter in a min value. Same thing, but for max. Oh, oops. Turn a max value. And I'll just make it print. So keep it on the same line. And then over here, I'll make the min value. I'll assign the input to a variable called min. So int min is equal to scan.nextInt. Then over here, I'll make int max is equal to scan dot next int. Then so basically now we have the min and max stored in a variable, right? So we'll ask what for a min value, for a max value, and then it will store it in the value in the variables, and then it will print out the number of numbers between the min and the max, and that will be done using the for loop that I'm about to write. So for let's create int j this time. Again, it could be anything. In j, I'll just make it in j is equal to min. J is less than or equal to max. J plus equals to 1. Now I want to do system dot out dot println, or actually dot print j plus space. So again, let me just show you when I run it. So let's run it. All right, so now it's gonna ask me for min value. So let's make it 13, and let's make the max value 25. So there, now it prints out using the for loop. It prints out all the numbers between 13 and 25 inclusive. So that's how you do that. And I could change this value. So what would happen if I change it to j plus equals to 2? So it'll actually print out like so using the same example, 13 and 25 is the min and max. It will print out 13, 15, 17, 19, all the way to 25. So if I do that, and if I run it, let's actually make it 0 as the min value and 10 as the max. So it'll print out 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So all the even numbers between 0 and 10. So that's what that does. So that's the little mini project that I wanted to do. So now we're gonna move on to while loops. So let's comment that out. So while loops, in my opinion, I find while loops a lot easier. So let me use the same example of printing out the numbers 0 to 10 using a while loop this time. So I'll create a variable. So I have to create a variable actually outside of the loop for while loops. So I'll just create a variable called int I is equal to 0. And now I'll do while I is less than or equal to 10. System dot out dot println I plus a space and make it print. Yeah. And then now I'll do I plus plus, or I plus equals to 1. So this is the exact same example as this one right here, where it prints out the numbers 0 to 10, except it's in a different format for while loops. So for while loops, you have to create the variable outside or on top of the while loop. In this case, it's I, similar to this one over here. And then in the while loop, there's only one parameter or one condition, one statement, which is the condition. So I is less than 10. And if I is less than 10, then print out I plus a space. And then after that, then increment it by 1. So it's the exact same thing. It starts at 0, checks if 0 is less than 10, less than or equal to 10. If it is, then it will print out I. And then after that, it will increment it by 1. And then I will become 1. And then it will do the same whole entire process until it reaches 11. And then it stops because 11 is not less than or equal to 10. So let me just run this. Right there, see, 0, 1, 2, 3, same exact thing. So that's using a while loop. And one thing I want you guys to be wary about is infinite loops. So infinite loops is basically where a loop never stops, and that can be kind of bad for like one main reason. It's because it could cause your like system to crash or whatever IDE you're on. So you want to refrain from like infinite loops, and it can also like be kind of confusing when you're like doing a project and then it's not working as intended and it's just printing out something forever. That's not what you want. So you generally want to refrain from infinite loops unless you're trying to like show it, which is what I'm about to do. So let me use a while loop. So while true, system.out.println println food, and let me just comment comment this out. So this is one way to create an infinite loop. So in this case, it will always print out food. It'll just print out food like forever. It will never stop until your like PC crashes or something. So I'm gonna show you what it looks like. If I run that, what is this? Oh, wow. Wait, did I? Symbol. Wait, why not? It's weird. It's supposed to work. Okay, it's interesting. Let me create a variable. Val is equal to true. While val is actually no. Let's do int val is equal to 10. While val is greater than 5. Print out food. Yeah, this is also another infinite loop. So if I run this, yeah, that runs, and there, that's an infinite loop. See, it just keeps on running and keeps on printing out food, the word food. So yeah, then I'll stop that. So yeah, so basically, I just wanted to show you how how while loops can or infinite loops can occur. So the reason this is an infinite loop is because the value is 10, right? And so it says while 10 is greater than 5, or while value is greater than 5, print out food. So that will just print out food forever because 10 will always be greater than 5. So that's one way an infinite an infinite loop could occur. But generally, as I mentioned before, you want to stay away from it. So yeah, I just wanted to show you how that looked like. All right, so now we're gonna move on to arrays. We just comment it out. All right, so now we're gonna talk about arrays. So what are arrays? So arrays is basically like storing values, multiple values. And for arrays, similar to normal variables, there are the same data types: there's integer, string, and double. So let's create an integer array. So integer ARR is equal to 5, 6, 7, 12, 45. All right, so a few things I want to talk about here. So number one, so same data type, and so the first thing I want to talk about is these square brackets. So for an array, you always want to add these square brackets after the name. I think it could be either after or before the name, but I normally do it after. But yeah, it doesn't matter. But you still need a square bracket, like there anyway. And the reason being, to basically show the compiler that the variable is an array. So like if I don't add these, then it'll print out an error. So if it's just in ARR without the square brackets, it's only supposed to be one integer value, not how many is this? Not 5. But if I want to have an array of integers, then I have to add these square brackets. Then of course use what is it, curly braces, and then I basically just set the array ARR to 5, 6, 7, 12, and 45. So that's how you do that. And I can make another one. I could make string. Let's make a string one. String str ARR is equal to. Then of course for string we need double quotes. Yeah, even in arrays. So if I can make it hello. I'll just make 3 of them, and then food. Yeah, so same concept, except it needs double quotes since it's a string. And so let's try printing out ARR. So system.out.println ARR, which is this one right here. So it should print out 5, 6, 7, 12, and 45. It's actually not going to print out 5, 6, 7 like the ARR, and I'll show you why. So if I run that, compile, run. There, see over here. Let me just move this over. So over here, I wanted it to print out 5, 6, 7, 12, and 45, right? But instead, when I printed out ARR, it printed out this weird thing right here. It's actually a hash code. So there's a specific way to print out arrays using a print statement. So what I'm trying to prove is that you can't just print it out by doing system.out.println ARR. You actually have to you actually have to import another statement and then use a function from that class. And that class will be arrays. So if I do import java.util.arrays, and then use, let me add a comment right here. So the function you're using is arrays.toString. So it's in the name. What it does is that it converts an array to a string. So if I print out arr.toString, then now it should print out 5, 6, 7, 12, and 45. So let's try this again. Java C, Java. Oh, did I not? R.toString. Oh, wait. Oops. So it's supposed to be arrays, and then in here will be ARR. My bad. There. Now it will work. So if I run this again. There we go. 5, 6, 7, 12, 45. So I have to add arrays and then .toString, and then inside the parentheses will be ARR. So that's how I'll do it. And same thing, if I change it to str ARR, which is hello, buy, and food, then it will print out hello, buy, food. So if I run, and right there, so it prints out hello, buy, and food. So yeah, that's what you want to remember. So arrays.toString is used to print out arrays using a print statement. All right, so now I want to talk about length. So if you remember, for strings, there's a string.length, right? str.length. And of course, what it does is that it finds the length of a string. So same thing can be done using arrays. So let's create a new variable. So int array length equal to arr.length. So it's the same thing, except it's the same thing as str.length, except there's no parentheses. So that's pretty much the main thing. If there's no parentheses, then it's for arrays. If I add parentheses like this, then it's for a string, and it won't work because in this case, because there's no like normal string variable that I've created, or no normal non-array variable that I've created. So if I move this, that will work, and this will be equal to what? So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It'll be equal to 5. So if I print out system.out.println array length, then it will print out 5. So if I compile, oh, I forgot to add a semicolon. Don't forget semicolons. Pretty important thing in Java. So yeah. So if I compile, then run, then it'll print out 5 right there. And same thing, if I change it to str ARR, then what is this? str ARR, then it will print out 3 because its length, it has only 3 components. So hello, buy, and food. So that should print out 3. So if I rerun, then it will print out 3 right there. So that's .length, and to show you that it won't work, there's parentheses. So if I make it .length with parentheses, same thing as string, it won't work. So if I compile it, oops, I didn't compile it. If I compile it, then right there, see, it says cannot find symbol. So basically, you don't need parentheses. Parentheses is only for strings. No parentheses is for arrays. So keep that in mind. All right. So now I want to go over printing out every component of an array using a string, using a for loop. So let's do this. Let me comment this out. And using our knowledge of for loops, let's print out every component of ARR. So for int I is equal to 0. Let me uncomment this one, which is the length. Let me change this back to ARR. So again, this will be equal to 5. So I is less than ARR, array length. What's going on? And then I plus equals to 1. Then I do system.out.println ARR at 1 is, or no, is at I plus that. All right. So what this will do is that it will print out every component. And before I show you what it does, let me actually show you like indexes for how indexes work for arrays. So it's very similar to strings. So if you guys remember index of, so let's take this as an example. So let's look at the indexes. So 5, let's look at 5 in the ARR variable. So there's 5, 6, 7, 12, and 45. So 5 in this case will have index 0, 6 will have index 1, 7 index 2, and 12 index 3, and then 45 index 4. So it's the same thing as strings. The indexes always start off with 0. So if I print out system.out.println ARR at 1, then it should print out 6 because 6 is at index 1, right? And this is how you specify like the thing in the array, the value in the array that you want to specify. So if I want to specify 12, then it will be ARR at 3. So if I change this to 3, that'll print out 12. So let me show you if I print this out, and let me just comment this out for now. I'll uncomment it later on. So if I run this, there, it'll print out 12. And same thing, if I make it 0, it'll print out 5 because 5 is at index 0. So compile and run, and right there, 5. And let me show you how to, and from like few classes before, I remember talking about reinitializing variables. So like I could change the value of a variable even after it's initialized and declared, right? So same thing can be done for arrays. So I could change let's change the first index. So I can do ARR at 0 is equal to, you can make it 11. Then if I do system.out.println this one, let me just recopy this right here. System.raise.toString of ARR. So what this will print out, instead of 5, 6, 7, 12, and 45, it'll print out 11, 6, 7, 12, and 45 because I'm reinitializing the index 0 of ARR. And same thing, if I make this 1, then instead of 5, 6, 7, 12, 45, it'll print out 5, 11, 7, 12, 45. So let me show you. If I run this, right there, see it says 5, 11, 7, 12, 45. And same thing, if I make it 4, then instead of 45, it'll print out, what is it? It'll print out 11. Did I not? Oops. That's not what I wanted to print out. I wanted to change this to 4. Okay. Let me just comment this out real quick. Okay, there we go. Let's try that again. Right there. See 5, 6, 7, 12, and 11. So that's reinitializing values of an array. And there's one error, specific error that I want to go over. It's the array index out of bounds error. So let's see if I want to reinitialize array of 6. So if you may notice, there is no index 6 over here. There's only the maximum index is 4. So if I say array of 6 is equal to 11, if I want to change the 6th index of the array to 11, then the compiler will be like, wait, but there's no 6th index, and then it'll output an error. So if I run this, if I compile it, then it should give out an error. Oh, wait. Yeah, right here. Index 6 out of bounds for length 5. So this was actually a runtime error. So the main difference between syntax errors and runtime errors is that for syntax errors, you cannot compile it. So as you may have noticed, I was able to compile it using Java C. But when I ran it, then it gave the error instead of like before I compiled it. So that's the main difference. So runtime error means you can compile it, but it doesn't actually do anything when you run it. And then a syntax error is like you compile it, but like it doesn't even compile. It just gives you, it straight up just gives you an error. So yeah, this was over here, see index out of bounds. So if I change it back to 4, then it'll go back to normal. So that's what I wanted to show you. And so let me go back to the example right here, using the for loop. And so let me do that, and then let me just, here, let me comment those out. So what was this for again? Right, yeah, so basically just printing out each value or each index. So over here, same thing for for loops. It initializes a new variable called I, and it declares a new variable called I and initializes it as 0. And it basically, what it does is that it prints out ARR at I until it reaches array length, which is in this case 5. So if we run through it, so it's 0. I is 0 right now, right? So is 0 less than ARR, is less than array length? Is it less than 5? Is 0 less than 5? It is. So then it will print out array at ARR at I. So ARR at 0, which is 5. So we'll print out 5. And then plus the space. And then after that, it goes to the third statement. Remember, it's always first statement, second statement, whatever's inside the for loop, and then the third statement. That's the order. So you always want to remember that it's not statement 1, then statement 2, then statement 3. First statement, second statement, whatever's inside for loop, and then third statement. So then after that, after it prints out ARR at 0 or at I, then it will increment I by 1. So then it will be 0 plus 1, which is 1. And then it will check, is 1 less than array length? Is 1 less than 5? Yes. So then same thing, it prints out array at 1, which is 6. And so on and so forth until it reaches array length. So if I if I run this, then it will print out right here 5, 6, 7, 12, 45. So that's another way to print out an array. So you could either use this to print out an array, or you could use the arrays.toString. So those are like two options. And if I want to make it on the same line, as you notice here, see it's all going downwards on different lines. Then again, just use print instead of println. If I rerun, then it'll all print on the same line. 5, 6, 7, 12, and 45. So yeah, so that's the second way to print out. Yeah, so okay. So now if I want to, let's see, changing values. Yeah, I already talked about that. Print out each index of array. Yeah. So yeah, I believe that's all I wanted to talk about today. So this is what we did. So we did loops, scanner, so for and while loop, scanner, and then arrays. And of course, this will all go on to the GitHub. And the GitHub link, of course, is in the homework file, as it's always been. So so directly after class, I'll put this on the GitHub. And you can check it out if you're confused about something, or you could send me an email. And my email address is also on the homework doc. It's somewhere in there, so yeah, you can check there. Yeah, but at this time, are there any questions before I end the class? I'll wait for like 15, 20 seconds. Yeah. All right, yeah. So, all right, so you guys are free to leave, and make sure you come next class. And also, oh yeah, and also for homework, I have homework on the homework doc, and I already put the homework solution for this week onto the GitHub. So if you have problems with that, then you can always check out the solution. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say, and thank you for coming today, guys. So yeah, goodbye. All right, goodbye, guys.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Yep, no problem.